Hey, thanks for tuning into That Husband Podcast. On today's episode, we have the privilege of being joined by Jabu Zwane. We speak about a number of things. Number one, we speak about how we are loudly, proudly, and expressively so wearing the label of being simps for our wives and for our children. And secondly, then we speak about the beauty of the power that wives possess in handling the spiritual, emotional, and intellectual capital of their husbands. And then lastly, we get into his story, his own personal journey, and particularly we highlight how he healed from the death of his first wife and what it took for him to be committed now to his current wife. All of that on today's episode. Hey, what's up? Welcome to That Husband Podcast with me, Black Newborn. Here we are husbands who aren't where we want to be, but certainly are not where we used to be. We are imperfect, always failing forward, trying to know better so that we can do better. Hey, what's up? Welcome to That Husband Podcast with me, Black Newborn. This is where husbands try to know better so that we can do better. Before we get into this episode, we want to thank you so much for supporting us by buying us coffee. We love coffee here and we love being energized by it so that we can keep on making this content. If you're wondering what's that about, there's a link in the comment section that you can click and you can buy us as many coffees as possible so that you support the work that we're doing here. We want to bring more value and we want to continue making this. So please do continue supporting us. And then secondly, if you want to support us, you can book me as an MC for your next event, whatever event it is, you can do that at booking@blacknewborn.com. That's booking@blacknewborn.com. The husband that's sitting across the table from me today is Jabu Zwane. So how are you?
I'm good, man. Black, how you doing, brother?
Good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of digital hand clapping that's going on now. There's a lot of people who are losing their minds because they've been asking over and over and over and over again, when are you gonna have Jabu Zwane on the seat? So it's finally here.
Oh, praise the Lord. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that there is there is some kind of appreciation for this man. So beautiful. Love your work, man.
Thanks, brother.
With the first time I saw the podcast,
Yeah.
I started going in there and started liking.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what we need, man.
Yeah.
Kudos to you and to your team for this.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, brother. We're going to jump straight into our chat. But before we sit in there, we're compiling this resource where we want to give a book away for free to young men who are discouraged about the institutes of marriage. And they either don't have role models or they had bad role models growing up. And so they discouraged to want to get married. They're despondent, with this whole thing. And so we want to put names of husbands in this book and to say that there are husbands who are not superheroes, husbands who are failing forward, trying their best, taking accountability, taking their responsibility seriously of becoming a husband and being a husband. And also we want to make this available to husbands who are walking alone. So who don't have the joy of having a brotherhood. They don't have other husbands around them and they just feeling alone. They don't have anyone to speak to. And we the closest community that they actually have where they can see husbands. And so we want to get this book in their hands to encourage them. And so we ask our guests to give us two names of husbands who either inspired you to get married or husbands who inspire you to stay married now. And why? Why those two husbands?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, the first one, is actually my pastor.
Cool.
He's not based in South Africa. I met him when I was 19. He was a missionary, African American, that we've had that friendship now up until now. And he's the one that did my first marriage. And after my first wife passed away, he also did my second marriage. His name is Ronaldo Brown. And he does a lot of marriage counseling. And one of the tips that he gave me actually in preparation to marriage was I'm about to learn how selfish I can be.
That's a good title.
Yeah, he said to me, the first thing that you're going to learn, you think that you're amazing as a Christian, you're about to learn how selfish you can be. And marriage is about to expose all the ugliness of self that is within you when you're supposed to now share with someone else.
Yeah.
And that pretty much, is also an important person of accountability in my life. And the second person, again, unfortunately, again, is somebody also based in the US.
That's fine.
His name is Michael Sylvester. I met him actually in 2017 in a very dark place in my life at the time.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, great man, loves his wife, and he always holds me accountable to the love that I say I have for my wife.
Yeah.
Every now and then he calls, he says, he calls me Jabu Zwane. He says, Jabu Zwane, tell me how you loving your wife today.
Yeah.
The question was, how you loving your wife today?
Sure.
Such a simple sentence.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
every single time he asks me the question, like there's so much in me that stands to attention. And I got to think about that. Okay, how am I loving my wife today?
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the two guys.
Sure.
And if I don't know if you're talking about collecting resources, if that entails some content, or I don't know how you doing that exactly.
What the book?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're writing stories. So we'll take your story,
Okay.
exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Put the guys' names in there,
Yes.
and the information you just shared. And so we want to give guys to sit and read about these.
Oh, super.
These gentlemen.
Yeah. So those two men they have been and continue to be quite instrumental.
It's great, man.
In the husband.
That's great.
I have been becoming in the last couple of years.
Yeah. You use the word unfortunate that they not in South Africa and they're in America. Is it unfortunate because it's hard to find role models locally?
Yes.
Or,
yeah.
Would you speak to that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I find that it's quite difficult to find role models and a lot of men who are who openly proud to love their wives.
Sure.
There's a certain kind of shame that is attached to men who love their wives well.
Yeah.
And as a result, a lot of men who love their wives well don't feel the confidence to say it in public. Because most of the time there's some kind of a public backlash. I mean, think about it in our language. They're going to talk about you know what I'm saying? You're like, Sisutu, we have the
yeah.
Whatever you ate, you probably ate it in a bucket.
Sure.
You didn't even use a plate.
Yeah.
And then so as a result, a lot of good men that love their wives don't talk about it, but also don't even know how to articulate it well. And I happen to be somebody who's quite communicative, and I'm the type of man that if I have a friendship with you, it'll be filled with a lot of meaningful conversations. And it became quite difficult to find, at least. It could also be because of the design.
Sure.
Because I was a missionary I was a pastor for quite a long time, and I traveled quite a lot in and out of the country. And it so happened that when I would travel with my pastor. And so then, naturally speaking, it was by design then, the easiest thing for me to do. And in business in 2017, coming across Michael, going into the place of speaking and the work of healing around diversity, equity in the church. We did the cultural fluency in the church. We did the work here and overseas.
Sure.
It was there. And I don't know if I looked enough or if I was in a place where I could access those men.
Sure.
But it so happened that for me then, these men happened to be outside the country.
It's great, man.
Yeah.
Sure. And it's great that they were in your life, that they're still in your life.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of other husbands, they'll come in contact with guys like that, men of that caliber, and due to circumstances, then they depart, and so they don't have that continuous pouring into by those guys. So it's great to hear that you have them, still.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful, man. Shout outs to those guys. We're gonna put their names in here.
Yeah.
And our hope is that when we're done with this book, we would get all of these men who are in this book in one room, and just celebrate them, but also hear more of their stories.
Yeah.
And how they've done this marriage thing, and just be blessed by that. And to your point precisely now that you made about men not feeling confident to share their love for their wives or even express that, I think getting these guys in a room will encourage more of that to happen. There's a word that is on the internet for guys like us, for men who want to expressively love their wives.
The S word.
Yes.
The S word.
So we want to make t-shirts.
Proudly S.
Yes.
Proudly simp.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm simping for my wife and my
That's it,
children
man.
till Jesus comes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh yeah, come on.
So, and I say this to say there's a couple of guys who've commented either on our podcast, on other podcasts. So we had a very prominent podcast in South Africa that gave us a shout out recently. And so then I went on the comments to see what people were thinking and saying, a lot of positive comments. And then there were two guys. One was like, "Oh, this podcast is for simps,"
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Well, in inverted commas, well done, real man, for reminding us,
Yeah.
that we're gonna simp for our wives till kingdom come."
Exactly.
And so we want to make t-shirts that just celebrate that, because
Yeah.
it's nothing to be embarrassed about. In fact, I always say that's a strength, to love anybody,
Oh yeah.
and be open about that love. So I I wonder if you have any thoughts about. I had a conversation with a friend of mine about what might lead to a man looking at other men loving their wives openly, and then feel the need to call that weakness and call that
Yeah.
simping. What are your thoughts on what might lead one to become, you know, uh, an advocate of hating simps?
I mean, the thing is that I think the language is important, right?
Yeah.
The idea that if somebody loves someone very well, and then the other person maybe does not reciprocate, I think let's start over there. Let's start with the negative aspects of where this might come from. Observing men that have loved women very well, and then had a situation where maybe those women did not reciprocate. And instead of actually quitting, those men kept on believing that, what, if I love this woman quite well, maybe at some point she'll begin to give the love back.
Sure.
And of course, in the process, they're getting hurt.
Sure.
They're getting emotionally destroyed. And then, and I'm looking at the person, I'm thinking, but why would you continue to go to a place where you've been rejected? That's weak, because then you're forcing things. So there is some legitimacy as to maybe feeling, assuming that maybe let's say that they're coming from the right place.
Yeah.
These simp callers.
Yeah.
Let's assume that they come from the right place.
Yes.
Maybe they're feeling sorry for these guys and they don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've been that guy and they've
been
hurt,
that guy.
you know what I mean? It does not take away the reality that part of being a great lover is that you have to be a great lover.
Sure.
You got to be a great giver.
Sure.
You got to sacrifice aspects of who you are, and you got to go out of your way, especially if you're a man, you're initiating to a woman. You say, I've got a plan. I'm going to love you, and the woman says, okay, I'm willing to be loved by you. Right.
Sure.
And sure. in my willing to be loved by you, I'm waiting to see what you're going to do. And if I accept that kind of love, right? And maybe you feel like you've done your best. And then in terms of your best was not good enough, or it wasn't appreciated. I can get it. I can get the pain.
Sure.
Nonetheless, it still remains true that it is men who love the women well, who also enable the women to love them well.
Yeah.
Who make it easier for them to love them well. And when that beautiful thing happens,
Sure.
a beautiful relationship happens. Because then there's a family to be built there. There's a business even maybe to be built there. There's a blessing to the community that happens there. That God even multiplies that kind of setting where there is the spreading of the love, the spreading of care, of forgiveness, of understanding, of belonging, the creation of that belonging. that when it happens, the community gets blessed. So to want to now completely negate those objective ways of building a good relationship and want to dismiss them on account of other people who have not reciprocated or who misunderstand or don't appreciate it is unwise.
Sure.
So if that makes me a simp, I want the presidency.
Come on.
I mean, now I want the
We're
president. So I put myself
inaugurating
the
you
candidate
now.
for the president.
We are inaugurating you now as the president of the
I'm the
Simp
president of the
colony.
simple. That's it, man. Bring me in there. I'm the
Yeah.
president.
Yeah. I was actually reading up, so colloquially, simp obviously is what you describe now. But I saw some explanations of where the word might also come from, and one of the words is sympathizer, so somebody who would sympathize with another person. But obviously there are unhelpful ways in which somebody can sympathize, and you've I think eloquently described that now. If it leads to your detriment, it's obviously harmful.
Yes.
But as husbands, man, we enjoy not just being sympathetic to our wives, but also being empathetic, living in their shoes, and
Yeah, absolutely.
being understanding of who they are in the most holistic way possible. Because love is that it's a doing word. It's a verb. So I can say I love you all I want, and especially to our wives, we can say it till kingdom comes. But what really moves them as well is them seeing that. So us doing it. So we have to be simps for our marriages to work.
I don't understand how else to be.
Yes.
Like, honestly, for some of us that have been hurt
Sure.
for not receiving love, let's say growing up, I don't understand how else to be.
Sure.
And the things that it's important for mature people to be part of the discussion. I am yet to see the simp haters or proponents or opponents, whether it's a podcast, whatever. I'm here to see one of them that has a successful relationship. And sadly, sometimes I do this as a purpose because I've been accused of that as well on my platforms. And I look at these these avatars or even their profile, and you can see this is a troubled young man. This is a young man that has probably suffered the pain of somebody saying no to their love. And I want you to pay attention when I say no to their love. Most people are not looking for someone to love them. As men, we're looking for someone to love. It is the rejection of that good intention that hurts.
Breaks you.
When somebody says, I don't want your love. I don't want to be loved by you.
Oof. Yeah.
It's like, what is the greatest gift that you as a human being can give to another person?
It's yourself.
It's yourself.
Yeah.
And then that part of self, what is the highest form of self?
Love.
It's love. It's like there is a rejection of the highest form of who you are. This is the reason why they say that God is love. The greatest attribute on which all attributes of God fall and hold is love.
Yeah.
And so when you're rejecting my love, you're rejecting the purest, gift, the highest form of any gift that I can give to you as a person. And that's what hurts. Yeah. And that's why we get so happy when a woman says yes and says, I am okay to be loved by you. And then she says, okay, I'm also then willing to give my love to you. And that's why it hurts her when she has decided to love you and give her love to you, and then you play with it and you mess around with it. That's why it's more painful to her to handle. Yeah. Because you initiated it, she agreed on it, and then she decided to give, and then you mess around with it. Yeah. That's why you will pay a greater price as a husband for messing that up than she would. You would pay. I'm yet to see a man that has messed up a good marriage and then went on and lived a healthy life.
Sure.
And I'll say this at the very same time as a similar of interest is that for you ladies out there that are thinking, you know what, how come I want to also be like a man and be able to initiate? Understand something. If you initiate the love, you carry the responsibility of that love.
To keep it. Yep.
It's your responsibility. We understand that. Sure. That's why we're okay with giving you our money. That's why we're okay with not wanting to know how much money you're earning. Sure. Unless it becomes, sort of impossible and difficult as we are. The times we're living in today are very difficult. Yeah. And we have to then renegotiate some of these terms, right? There's a reason why a man is okay with taking half of his income or all of it and giving it
Yes.
to his wife.
Sure.
Understand that's the responsibility. If you want to step in there, then go for it.
Yeah.
You better be made for it, because we have been groomed and
Yeah.
been made to understand
To
that.
understand that, man. Yeah.
You know.
Sure. No, no, no. That puts a lot of things into perspective, and I think enlarges the conversation from just there's these guys there and we are here, but to say no, as men we share something that's common.
We
You
do,
know,
yeah.
because of how we made. It's in our wiring for us to want to give our love, and so to kind of invite these guys and to say, instead of throwing darts at each other on the internet, maybe it's a loving thing for us to have a healthy
A healthy
conversation.
conversation about
And
it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
sit down and say, man, listen, where have you, because one of the comments that I just referred to, somebody responded to that and just said heal, right?
Yeah.
And I was
Yes.
like, yeah, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen, and I think once a man becomes honest, but exactly the wiring that you've just articulated to us now, and says, this is who I actually am, and you accept that, then
Yeah.
I think it leads you closer to the process of wanting to begin the steps of healing.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're actually going to sit on the side of the fence and you're just going to keep on throwing darts, and maybe even to their defense, they trying to help, from their perspective. I'm trying to help you not to be hurt like I was.
Yeah.
But you don't have a healthy way of actually saying, hey, this, I was hurt, and
Yeah.
admitting that, and therefore I can see that you might be going down the same direction. You're giving all your love to this woman, she might hurt you. So I'm like, man, let's actually admit that about ourselves. Who are we? How are we made?
Yeah.
And then I think it leads us to a healthier point of having conversations. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm a firm believer in the fact that, it's unhelpful to condemn
Yes.
a behavior that is so well pronounced in humanity.
Sure.
It's well pronounced. Like, instead of condemning and say, you know what, these simp haters. Let's talk about us. We are the good guys. They're the bad guys. Like, let's try to understand without assuming any malice.
Sure.
There's some aspects that are valid in the argument.
Yeah.
And let's talk to what's valid, and then let's look to where the argument falls apart.
Yeah.
The argument falls apart where they themselves still desire to still continue to love someone and have somebody accept their love.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say that they get that opportunity by God's grace, and somebody, a beautiful woman, says to them, listen, you are the
want
one,
your
love
love.
me.
Yeah.
But then he's thinking, you know what, I'm not good enough, and thinking I don't have enough money to hold on to my independence and to control her and to tell her what to do and for her to submit. And she's like, but I don't care about that.
Sure.
But he doesn't have the psychological bandwidth to process that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she is frustrated. He thinks, I need to buy you a gold chain. She's like, dude, just flip and take me to McDonald's.
Yeah.
And let's
Be
have
with
a
me.
conversation.
Yes.
But he has a problem, because unless he can take her to Smith and Walensky, then he's not a man.
He's not a man.
Then he's unable to receive that love.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, okay, you know what? Let's see what I did right, and let's see where the problem was. The problem wasn't me.
Yeah.
The problem was that the other person didn't appreciate how I was. Does it hurt? Yes, it does hurt. All right. I need to go and heal. And then here's the thing about it, Black. Here's what happens.
Yeah.
We don't know that we're healed until we get back in the game.
Yeah. That's true.
And you think you've healed.
That's true.
And you step into the arena, and that injury gets triggered.
Yeah.
That move that you tried, that you did, that got you pain, you do it again, and then you get hurt again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then most people actually don't want to heal. They don't want to heal because they're afraid of healing. Because they know as soon as I heal, I have to be ready to be hurt again.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to be hurt again. And for many of them, they scream on the sides because they have to remind themselves more than you. They have to remind themselves going into the field is dangerous. Trying to love is dangerous. Yeah. So don't you dare do that. What is unfortunate is that when they see guys like us who are in the field doing it, it reminds them of what they lost out on.
The aching injury.
It is, you know what I mean? It's a reminder. It's like you've seen those guys playing, and instead of being happy for them, you're like, you know, it's unfair that you guys didn't get injured. It's unfair that you guys didn't get hurt the way that I did. How come you guys are having a great time at this thing that messed me up so much?
It's hard, man.
It's like that's what it
That
is.
hard.
It's
Yeah.
like, you know, otherwise it wouldn't bother them.
Yeah.
Otherwise they wouldn't feel the need
Yeah.
to be on the sides and say, get out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not gonna win.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You're not winning. Like they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like the people that go to watch the game, they're there to get excited,
Exactly.
to clap for the players.
Wow.
What are you doing?
Because it takes energy to hate.
It does.
Yeah. And so you wouldn't necessarily hate something you at some level didn't care about.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
You
thing
have an interest in it.
you do have an interest in it.
Yes.
And the thing is that, I mean, for me, I'm not talking to anybody that hates marriage.
Yeah.
Like, you're
Sure.
not my target market.
Sure.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to a person that would love to have a great marriage and wants to know how. And I will share with them what I did
Yes.
and what people I know have done.
Sure.
And say, listen, take what you can here, reject whatever doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
But if you have a deep desire yourself to love, if you do have a deep desire to love, because you got so much love to give, but you have no one to give,
I'd love to.
you are living in grief. You are living a life of grief.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has lost somebody that they love, that's what grief is. I learned that grief is having the love for the person, but having no opportunity to give them anymore.
Yeah.
And then that love lingers. And then it's got to find something where it's going to redirect itself. That's why people can get very angry.
Yep.
And then that love is put into anger
Yep.
and blame, or maybe just even deciding not to marry again
Sure.
as a way of expressing the loyalty and the love to the person that has gone on. You know,
Yeah.
but then you're living in the grief. But I say that there are people who live in the grief and having the love for someone, that they should be finding who that person is and getting themselves ready for that person.
For that person, yeah.
But they're saying no because of the fear, getting hurt again.
Yeah. Yeah.
They cannot handle the fact that, it didn't work out the first time round.
Sure.
And that is a miserable person. And that's why the language will match.
Yeah, definitely.
There'll be a language of misery.
Yeah.
There'll be a language of sadness. There'll be a language of sorrow. There'll be a language of fear. There'll even be a language of condemnation, condemning the thing because, in their own way, being good people.
Yeah.
They're going to warn us.
Yes. Oh Lord. Sheesh. That's probably the most clear, succinct diagnosis of the simp thing.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing conversation, obviously, that I've had with a couple of husbands. I think it's the first time we kind of, sat in it, or at least I've sat in it. And one became a simp, so I sympathize with those guys themselves. So, sheesh, man. I remember, and I'm paraphrasing, somebody saying that hate is directionless love. It's purposeless love.
Purposeless love.
Yeah. So it's love that doesn't have purpose or direction, and therefore, it expresses itself in hatred. Because it can't find where it needs to go, and it doesn't have parameters. Which is sad, man. Just even that imagery alone, it's sad.
It's very sad.
It's love in darkness. It's very sad. When I think of it in a poetic sense, I'm just like, man, it's misery. I just see gloom, doom, very cold, wet weather. You're going somewhere, but you don't know where. And therefore you'll just keep on bumping into things because you don't have, that somebody is supposed to receive this thing, but you don't know who that person is. And you also, from your hurt, preventing yourself from, getting back into the game. So earlier on, you used the word successful, that most of these guys might not have successful relationships. But as you continue to explain, because I wanted to say, hey, I know there'll be pushback, because success will be defined in different ways and maybe very subjective ways. But as you continue to explain, the picture that obviously came out and the word that I was thinking to replace success with is healthy. That they don't necessarily have healthy relationships or healthy, um, yeah, relationships, because they would say again, well, I have a successful relationship. Why? Because they define success as a woman who's not gonna push back, who's not gonna express herself, whose values will be dictated by him, etc., etc. So I'm like, but we can say that's not a healthy it's not a healthy
Yes.
relationship. You might define it as success
Yeah.
in air quotes, but it's not healthy. A
Mm.
healthy relationship is both partners are showing up and they're equally valued.
Yes.
So yeah, man, a lot could be said on that,
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely. Let's double down on it a little bit.
sure.
I think again, for me, how I measure whether something, is, I call it functional or
Mm,
not, is first purpose,
hmm,
like you mentioned, outcome,
mm,
then impact.
mm, sure.
Not just outcome, but also impact. Purpose is that, okay, what is the purpose of a relationship?
Mm,
Why does a man decide to pursue a woman? And why
mm,
does a woman then say a yes to the man that it pursues?
mm,
There's an agreement that we're going to build a life together. And in that life together, there has to be in common enough for both of us
mm,
to make space for both of us, in spite of whatever differences that we may have.
mm,
And those differences should not be so different that it starts to sacrifice or compromise our well-being.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And the thing is that where those differences are so bad that actually it becomes to harm one of us, there's got to be a willingness for us to work through it and transform enough to the point where the harm, or rather the well-being overcomes or overwhelms the harm. The harm is a non-factor anymore, and it doesn't hurt either one of us. Whether it's a discomfort, it doesn't actually matter.
Sure.
So if that is then the outcome that you're hoping to achieve, is that really what you've achieved? And then how has that impacted both of you? When you have achieved that relationship where you've been together for the last 20, 25 years, do you feel valued? Does the other person feel valued? Right? Have they become a better version of themselves, or have they become a worse version of themselves? Are they more happy? Are they more sorrowful? Are they more sad? Or are they more excited, enthusiastic, appreciative? Are they regrets and resentments? Or are they beautiful memories and reminiscing around all the beautiful things that have happened, that you can sit and appreciate the sunset together? Or you can sit in front of the sunset and say, oh, it's about to come down again. I wish I could stay here a long time.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like outcome and impact. How has it impacted both of you?
Yeah.
And then secondly, as well, as it is the nature of relationships in the society, how has that impacted those who also are invested in that relationship?
Sure.
That would be children. Do they become functional, healthy, spiritual adults? Or do you raise kids who are old
Yeah.
and who become quite selfish
Sure.
and hurtful and dysfunctional because of how they've experienced
Yeah.
this thing that you were building together?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's great, man.
So very, very important.
Yeah.
And I think, again, there's got to be a litmus test for what does health look like,
Sure.
or success. If success is saying healthy, what are the components of what you call a healthy relationship? Does healthy mean I've got a bigger voice than you, and then your voice doesn't matter? That I can make long-term decisions about what's going to impact you for your lifetime without consulting you.
Oof.
And it favors me, but it puts you in harm's way, right? Do I make financial decisions where you no longer can exercise your independence and your freedom to make your own financial decisions because my decisions have overpowered your ability to make your own decisions? And it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
And I think in terms of the finances as well, I would say this, especially for women out there that are listening to this podcast, is that don't undermine the power that you've got with a good man. You need you need to understand that power that a good man will give you into his life.
Sure.
understanding the responsibility and accountability that comes with him initiating and pursuing you,
Yeah.
and deciding that they're gonna build that life for you and for you together. They give you carte blanche access to the intellectual capital, to the emotional capital, to the physical capital, to the spiritual capital. You have access to the sanctuary.
Yep.
You got access.
Yep.
How you use that is crucial for the success of your relationship and of your family. Because he's going to find it hard most times to say no to you.
Well, you can say that a million times.
Find it extremely hard. Because he has decided that he has to be able to say yes to you,
man.
because he undertook to have the capacity to say yes to your needs. You got to understand that.
Yeah.
And if you don't exercise accountability and inquire and observe as a woman to see, okay, we bought a BMW X5 last month. We just bought a 2.5 million rand house. Can we really afford to go for the 300,000 rand trip? Can we really afford to take our kids to this fancy private school? Maybe that's not the degree. Maybe that's Toyota. It doesn't actually matter. But the thing is that, can you apply your mind logically as an intelligent being who cares about this man and what you're building together?
Yeah.
And then be objective about what you together as a family have the capacity and the ability to actually acquire financially, physically, spiritually, in whatever way.
Sure.
Because there's a reason why, as a Christian, why the Bible says that calls Eve the helper.
The helper, yeah.
Because the helper looks at the gaps and they become a complementary aspect and say, listen, love, I know you wanted to buy me that 100,000 rand ring, but you know what? It's okay.
Sure.
It's okay. I love you.
Yeah.
Brush the back of his head and get the sense. I saw that image, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Guys, don't let them do that, because this is how they get the sense out of you.
That's how they get you. You'll sign your life away when she touches the back of your head.
Touch the back of your head. and then it's okay. Let's move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said around the responsibility that that women have for having a healthy man that has good intentions, that is willing to go through thick, hell and back for you.
Yeah. Me and my wife have been having that conversation recently, and just looking at the past 10 years of our marriage. And there's a larger ongoing conversation we've been having. But a thread that came out of that was exactly what you just described now. And for me, I was just helping her see the amount of power she has as she handles my love. And for her, it was just like, I've always known that you love me, but I've never thought that I possess your love and I could abuse it and destroy you with it, And she's heard me say this, and even on the podcast, where it's like, hey man, women, be careful in how you speak to your husband. You can easily break him with your words. You can easily make him with your words, But for her, it was like, okay, I could see it at a practical level in terms of how I use my language towards him. But I didn't understand that underneath all of that, what's undergirding that is the fact that he's given his love to me, and I possess that, and I could, and just how you broke it down now with the various capitals that we give them, and to double underscore that. That's what a good man does. And for women to know that she has that, man, that's empowering. And I think it helps with probably resolving a bunch of other conflicts that couples might have, and just understanding that one thing. It's not a simple truth at all, and I think it's such a profound truth. But understanding it would unlock a lot of other things that happen in the marriage. You in one of your posts, I'm still on this. You had given the equation of what a successful relationship is. It's fear plus courage divided by wisdom. I think. Would you speak into those? What is that equation? Because fear is a loaded word.
Yeah.
you know. But I love how you obviously couple that with courage, because it does take a lot of courage for one to just express their fears and be vulnerable and open about their fears,
Yeah.
to their spouse. But would you unpack that for us a bit as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly believe that fear is actually a framework of, is the primary framework of intelligence.
Sure.
Because the moment that you figure out the things you fear
Sure.
that are dangerous, then you're going to apply. Your brain literally dedicates the most of its energy in helping you to figure out how to avoid that danger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's why they say 4 out of 5 of your thoughts are negative. I don't believe they're negative. I believe actually it's your brain's way of saying, you better watch out for what's dangerous, because the ultimate end of that is what? Death.
Death, man.
You
Yeah.
die.
Sure.
So you better know what can potentially kill you, what can potentially injure you, what can potentially make you paralyzed, what can potentially make you lose.
Yeah.
So you have to dedicate most of your intelligence then figuring out how to overcome those things.
Sure.
So you either learn how to overcome those things or how to avoid them or how to hide from them. Like you got to decide. And I always say this, like when something is a threat, there are 4 ways. You either try to, the first point of call is to eliminate it.
Sure.
But there's some certain dangers you can't eliminate,
Yeah.
and then you got to avoid them. And if you can't eliminate the danger, avoid the danger, then you have to minimize the impact of that danger. And then lastly, if you can't, then you, unfortunately, you just have to find a way to cope with it.
Sure.
You got to find a way to manage with it. And that is a very simple risk strategy. In risk management, that's what you do. You do apply those 4 levels altogether. And then on the other hand, whatever is then good for you, you then have to find a way to, the first point of call is to create it at will. If you can be able to exercise your power to create the memories, the excitement, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what money does. Money gives us the opportunity to create whatever we want to create. Do you know what I mean? In the same way also, that's what high intellect does. Whether it's a capital of money, whether it's a capital of intellect, it gives the ability to create at will.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing that we want to have created. If you can't create, then you go find it, right? If you can't find it, then you maximize what you already have. And if you can't maximize, at the very least, you must maintain it. And you can be applying all those 4 strategies together. So fear, on the other hand, says eliminate, avoid, minimize, and cope, right? That's what fear says. But if you can find the wise way of being able to avoid and eliminate things that can prevent you from creating, finding and maximizing and maintaining.
Yeah.
That's your thing. And understand the certain things you can't. They're part and parcel of life. So you got to find a way then to have the capacity to deal with them.
Sure.
You have to gather the courage to understand that if I'm stepping in the arena of love, pain is not almost a guarantee. It's a guarantee.
Yes.
Like you got to make peace with that if you're going to decide to love someone.
Yes.
Because a lot of the love, this is the thing, a lot of the pain that we experience as love is not intentional.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
It's in the process of trying to love each other that we hurt each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So what happens when you're walking? You'll step on each other.
You step on each other in trying to figure out your rhythm, in trying to be in sync, right? Yep. Remember one of the incidents with my wife where we're in the kitchen together. I like to cook and she likes to cook, and we've been in the kitchen together. And then she comes and stands next to me, and we're about to have this beautiful moment. And I open the top part of the cabinet. She's right next to me. My wife is tiny. And I grab this thing and it smacks her on the head. That moment, I felt like I was calling myself all kinds of names. You jerk, you so careless idiot. What's wrong with you? Thank goodness it didn't cut her face or anything like that. I think God was like, supernaturally, let me just make sure my daughter's beauties, because it was bad, right? It's like it went wha.
Yeah.
And that image stays so vivid in my mind. Like, when you are deciding to be in love, those moments happen.
Sure.
That can be a word.
Sure.
That said in, not being fully present, not fully being cognizant of where the person is positioned in the argument, in the discussion. right? And instead of sometimes just before you pull the cabinet, looking around and saying, okay, you okay? You all right? You want to move a little bit because it's about to get hot in the kitchen. You know what I mean?
Some things might fall on you.
Some things might fall on you. And that's what I find, that a lot of the hurts are unintentional hurts. Sure. They have to do more with vicinity.
Yeah.
Proximity.
Yes.
No, rather proximity to your heart. The fact that my wife is proximal to me, it means that even simple, innocent things like a knife that she has, if she turned around, she could cut my face. It's like, it's terrible. It's a terrible image. But that is the reality. So if you thinking that I'm going to go into the relationship because I don't want to get hurt, you have a wrong understanding.
Stay out of it.
You stay out of it.
Sure.
But understanding that actually part of it is that learning how to heal. If it does happen that I get hurt, can I heal? If it does happen that there's been misunderstanding, am I open to try to understand? And that takes courage. That takes courage. That takes the willingness to say, we are trying to figure it out. Yes, I got hurt. Yes, I have hurt you. Are you willing to forgive me? Am I willing to learn from my mistakes? You know, am I willing to forgive? Am I willing to allow you the space to learn from your own mistakes? All right. And that fear and courage, when those two come together, they give you that wisdom. And wisdom is that ability then to know, not necessarily precisely, we're not the Holy Spirit, we're not God, but as closely as possible.
We're not superheroes.
You're not superheroes, you know what I mean? Like, only the Holy Spirit. As much as he says in Luke 12:12, you know, I'll give you the words to say in that day hour. The question is that, do I hear them exactly that way? And can I say them accurately and pass them on? Or am I going to give him a little bit of my twist? A little bit of my,
maybe that doesn't apply to marriage. It applies everywhere else.
You know what I'm saying? And I'll try to spin it a little bit. You know what I mean? There's still an element of my own free will, even if the Spirit can speak to me in clarity as to whether or not I'm willing to say it exactly the way that he wants me to say it. Anyway. So, and that's why when I speak about wisdom, wisdom is that ability then to accurately, you know what to do, or rather attempt to do the right thing. You know, because of I understand how dangerous and how hurtful I can be. Wisdom says, be careful with your words. Because I know how much access I have to my wife's heart. Wisdom says, conduct yourself with some degree of caution around her heart, because it's frail. And if there's anybody who has access to hurting her, it's you.
It's you.
You know, when it comes to making decisions, because of I have a bigger voice of influence in terms of how she makes her decisions. Take your time in ensuring that you contribute positively to those decisions. You know, if you understand her weaknesses, understand that there's one person in the world that can either make her feel very strong in her weaknesses or actually make even feel weaker. And that person is you.
Man.
So the fear and courage. Fear is good because it tells you your human limitation. Right?
Sure.
When you're holding a hot thing, it tells you that your skin has reached its limit. You better drop the coal, yo. You know? And so then also emotional pain and the things we fear, they tell us our human limitation. And when those limitations, where the limitation comes, wisdom is required. Faith is required. Collaboration is required. Being able to say, I need help is required. Humility, being able to say, I don't have enough is required. Right? Openness to learn and to say, because I don't know enough, let me take my time and figure this thing out is required. And that's what I mean by those two. That for me, that formula guides my life a lot. Is that I need to be fearful. A dangerous human being is a person that has lost all fear. Because courage without fear, right? Where you, let's say bravery, as it is being like this being those people are dangerous. Because they have no boundaries. That's what happens in war, isn't it? Like they kill kids, they kill women, and they destroy beautiful things. Because there's no boundary, and fear can put that healthy boundary, which then allows you to apply your wisdom correctly. not only to achieve the things you want, but to achieve them in a healthy way, to achieve them in a way that is not harmful.
Yeah.
So I want my wife to feel loved based on how she wants to be feel loved, not because of I want to satisfy my own ego.
Yourself, yeah. Whew. Come on now.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dude, let's be honest. You bought her
Yeah.
the X5 because it was your own ego.
Yeah, sure.
Like, it had nothing to do with
No,
her.
hundreds.
You wanted to do the verpa. And they take it on the weekend. And let's face it, most of the time on the weekends, you were driving it. So who are you lying to? Saying that you bought it for her? Come on, man.
We see you.
We see you. You know what I'm saying? And now you're like yelling. You're reminding all the time about how you bought her the X5. But we all know it's all about your damn ego, bro.
Yeah.
You know, how's that working out for you? You know, what happens at the end of the month when it goes TTT and then you look at the screen of your phone?
Yeah.
How's that? How's that working
If
out?
only she knew.
How's that working out for you?
Sure.
You know, and that's what wisdom is. And wisdom is it understands those boundaries.
Yeah.
And also at the very same time, as much as we said earlier on that women have to be very careful of the power they have and actually they've got to us, we also have to learn to be courageous enough to say, you know what, I love you enough to say no to you. Like, can you risk it?
Yeah. That's hard.
Right?
That's hard.
And it's the accountability that you've got to your own love, yourself.
Sure.
To say, I love you enough that I'm going to learn how to say no.
No, man.
I'm going to learn how to conduct myself the best way possible for us. So that in your moment of weakness, I don't capitulate in my weakness. And then we make a weak decision that hurt us long term.
Yeah. Sure.
So
That's great, man.
There's a lot to say there, but I hope that's helpful.
That's great. I'm here. I'm just taking it all in, man. I'm taking it all in. Because it's just so, and that's the helpful thing about how you kind of put these things out. That it's not just, here's an idea, but just breaking it down practically and helping us and walking us through, you know, how that could potentially look like in our lives. So helpful, man. You were speaking now about, you know, being careful about using your words towards your wife, because obviously you hold, you know, her heart and how precious that is. You had spoken in one of your videos about communication. One, you said we born with the ability to communicate, which you know, I found as I was watching that, I put on my wife's voice. Not my wife, but a wife's voice. And I was like, heck no, men are not born with an ability to communicate. Because that's the narrative that's out there, you know?
Yes.
That we're not born with an ability to communicate, which I obviously think is false. You know, we're all born with an ability to communicate. So I wanted you to firstly speak about that. I'm setting up a question here. It's probably going to be a long setup. But parallel to that, there's a video you put out about raising boys, teenage boys, and creating an environment for them to be able to express themselves and be able to communicate and speak. You know, so then when I saw those videos, one, we have an ability to communicate that's from birth, that's innate to us. Secondly, intentionally putting an environment for teenage boys to be able to express themselves and speak and learn to grow that muscle.
Yes.
Because it's obviously going to shape the kind of men that they become later. So with that in mind, I wanted to ask you, how do you take those two things, speak to the husband who's one been accused that he can't communicate, who's finding it hard to communicate, one, because, you know, he didn't grow up where there was an environment for him to be able to express himself. And so he's like, well, like, I can speak. It's probably just in other ways, you know. And I'm like, he's a grown man at this point, so it's highly impossible that he just became the man he is in the career he is just from not speaking, right?
Exactly.
he can't speak, right?
Absolutely.
So with those ideas, man, how do you speak to that husband? How do you encourage him, you know, to say, listen, you can't speak. How do you take the next steps in actually maybe sitting down with your wife and saying, let's hear my communication language or my communication style, you know? So So how do you speak to that? And in the presence of wives who are watching this as well.
Absolutely. I love this one. I love this one a lot, right? A lot. I'll say that first of all, like, it's important to understand that communication isn't just about one person; it's about two people.
Sure.
And there are three or four things to be mindful of: narrative, which is how where do I come from? How do I get to be who I am today? Right? Context, which is in the moment, what's happening when we're communicating. Like, that's context. That's important. What are you trying to achieve?
Sure.
Thirdly, it's the meanings. What meanings do we attach to what's happening right now? Like, when a man is communicating, what meaning do I attach to it as a woman? And what does me as a man talking about love mean versus speaking about work?
Sure.
Because we are very capable, competent performance communicators.
Yeah.
As men.
Sure.
Because performance is how we are judged in terms of our worth. What do I mean by that? Every single career where people are getting rewarded for communicating, who's leading?
Men.
It's men. Right? These podcasts.
Sure.
Right? The professional speaking, pastors, politicians,
Sure.
leaders.
Sure.
So there's the whole notion that men don't communicate is a fallacy.
Sports commentators, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like we like, who are we quoting? Sure. Even in academia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's written all these books? That we're reading today. Forget about patriarchy and all of that. Just look at only the fact that there's evidence that men are great communicators.
Sure.
But what they communicate is what the issue is. Because that's how we're going to interpret. Before you say that your husband doesn't communicate, do you have the psychological, the emotional, the historical bandwidth to see him communicating as something manly?
Come on now. Hey.
Do you see it as manly?
Hey.
Or do you yourself lack such historical account of men like him that even when it does happen, even though you desire it, there is a psychological dissonance.
Yeah.
There's a cognitive dissonance in your own self. Like, is he talking more than me?
Yes. What anomaly is this? What?
Did he just say that he's feeling something? What does that mean?
Sheesh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one thing to desire that your person communicate. It's another for you to be prepared and ready to interpret that, to facilitate that, to process that in a way that is helpful. And to realize that you probably, if you haven't experienced it in your upbringing, if you don't see it with your friends, if there is a communication, a constant external influence that says they don't, that everything about how you view that is supported by they don't, and it's an anomaly. And as a result, in your own mind, you are not ready for it. You don't know how to process it. That if you do decide to go down that route, you need to watch how you respond to when he starts communicating.
Sure.
With your girlfriends, how you communicate, it's me too, Chomi. But you can't me too the conversation with your husband.
Yeah. He might push back.
Because you are fluent in that Me Too language, and you're gonna hijack the conversation.
Yeah.
It moves from it being about him, now all of a sudden it's about you. And then him being the man that he is, he's gonna allow you to hijack the conversation because that's how he's wired. And then the next thing you know, he has stopped communicating what he needs to communicate because you have hijacked the conversation. It's one of the 4 complaints that men complain about. I did a video as well that says that I love her, but I'm tired.
Sure.
And I was looking at some of my counseling history was that men complain about hijacked moments of vulnerability. That when he starts to get vulnerable, she starts talking about herself, me too, show me, starts bringing in other stuff. How about me? What about that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when he comes and talks to you about, let's say, the fact that you go and talk to your family about important decisions, instead of listening to what he has to say, you want to justify why you're still talking to your dad about important life decisions. without talking to him.
Sure.
And not consulting him, or talking to your sisters, or talking to your mothers, talking to your girlfriends. Worse, talking to your male friend. Don't even know why you have one, but anyway,
your best friend,
best friend, he's a best friend. They don't know that we marry our best friends, by the way. They don't know this. Like, this is what happens. This is the reality.
Exactly.
Proof right here. Like, yes, you said the last best friend that you had is your wife. Same here. The last best friend I have was my wife. The moment we go into a best friend, like, okay, there's a dangerous move. But anyway, I digress. I do apologize. I digress. But the thing is that, do we have, are women ready? Are you, as a woman, are you ready for that kind of man? Are you ready for him to become vulnerable? You know, can you understand that for us as men, we communicate differently?
Yeah.
You can tell me your problems, and I'll be like, oh man, that's rough. That's rough. Yeah. Tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
Is there anything I can do to help you?
Sure.
Nothing? Okay, fine. Let's go play ball.
Yeah.
Like, that's how we communicate.
And we're good.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we're good. And most of the time when we are communicating with you, we're not looking for a solution.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
We're just looking for you to know where we're at.
Yeah.
And in a way, trying to explain some of our behavior. Like, I say this to my wife all the time. Like, I'm just letting you know so you can know where I'm at, so that when you see me being a little bit quiet, this is where I'm at. But then she goes into,
solution.
do you mean that we're going to lose the house? Yeah. No, dude. I just meant that my customer client didn't pay and they're going to pay later.
And this is how I feel.
This is what I'm feeling, so I'm dealing with right now. And then she goes into, immediately goes into panic mode. And it'll take me some time even to figure out what are some of the things I can say with you, what I can't say to you.
Yes.
And this is very, very important. That is two ways. But if you're a guy that's talking about, I can't communicate.
Sure.
Okay. What exactly can you not communicate?
Hey, sorry to interrupt your viewing. We will shortly get back to that episode because obviously there's a lot of dopeness in there, right? But before we go back there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you're updated on all the episodes that we are dropping, right? Here's the thing. There's a lot of value. There's a lot of gems. There's a lot of dopeness that comes out of this. What do we want to do? We want to bless you with more dopeness, give you more gems, right? And with that, check out what's coming out next week.
Every time we find ourselves into conflict, let's gauge what will we lose versus what we're going to get.
Take it to its logical conclusion. Think about it logically. Yeah.
Just honestly think about it and just think, is it really, really worth it? Is it really worth it for me to tackle this thing in all these 5 directions? Because if I do, it's going to rattle cages it was not even supposed to rattle.
And this is very, very important. That is two ways. But if you're a guy that's talking about, I can't communicate.
Sure.
Okay. What exactly can you not communicate? Don't conveniently take on this character because of it has to do with romance. And now you can't say I'm a communicator or when I talk about my feelings. What meaning do you attach to talking about your feelings? What does it mean when you're being transparent about some of the issues that you're going through?
Yeah.
What meaning have you attached? Yeah. Where does it come from? How is that serving your relationship at the moment? If you continue to be in komidla, you go hide in your corner over there, but you can see that it's hurting your wife.
Sure.
Can you honestly not just let go of your ego a little bit and then realize that it might be helpful for you to give us some kind of an indication at least of what you're going through? So that she doesn't have to go to 1,000 thoughts and then go and talk to her mother if they're trying to figure you out.
Without you in the room.
And then the thing is that, and sometimes we create those scenarios where our wives have to go to their friends and, what kind of friends does she have? How solid is their advice? What is their posture towards marriage?
Sure.
And we can create those vulnerabilities. Not that it's your fault, but you can create the vulnerabilities of a wife having to consult externally to try to figure you out. Because you have not learned to articulate you. As a matter of fact, do you even understand you? Do you even understand the kind of man that you have become today? How you got to where you are today, right? Your own fears, your own struggles with expressing emotions when it comes to women. Like a lot of us grew up with our single mothers, yes, and we grew up without our fathers. So the sad reality of that is that the man to woman foundational framework of communication is this way. How are you, Nana?
Yeah.
Oh, my boy.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, you know, like that, the whole thing.
Sure.
Like where my attention that I need from you is that of almost like you tending to my incompetencies and thinking they're cute. And, you know, that's why women complain about this, what do you call it? Something competence, weaponized incompetence.
Yes.
You know,
yes,
like it's not
yes,
so much
it's very
weaponized
prevalent.
incompetence as it is, you know what, my foundational framework is such that my single mother loved me as this cute, and then whatever love and hatred she had for my father, she challenged it, channel all of that into me.
Into me. Yeah.
And I believe that I'm actually, you know, the center of the world.
Yeah.
And now I'm married to you, and you know,
Sure.
That's how I understand communication.
Yeah.
And now I have to learn.
Yeah. I have to regulate that.
You know,
yeah,
I have to
sure.
regulate that.
Sure.
For me, my mother wasn't around, but my father also was not around. The men that I met later on in my years, as I've mentioned, my pastor, those men taught me how to communicate.
Sure.
One of the things that my pastor said to me, she can never understand what you don't communicate well.
Yep.
Like, it's a very simple biology or psychology. So for goodness sake, learn how to communicate as accurately as you can. Part of the things that I do even in counseling is that I help people to develop emotional language. Like, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling hurt, I'm a bit confused, I'm a bit concerned, I'm feeling sad. There's a little bit of grief that I'm feeling. There's a certain degree of sorrow.
Yeah.
Like being able to use those words, you know, like right now I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. You know, like, listen, I don't want to talk to you right now because I don't know. Give me time to process my thoughts.
Yeah.
And can we revisit this conversation later when I'm feeling a little bit emotionally less triggered? You know, when I'm not as heightened emotionally as I am right now.
Yeah.
Like developing those language, knowing to be able to say, you know, I've got heightened emotions. I'm hypersensitive. You know, I'm feeling a bit triggered right now. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. You know, can we have a chat later?
Yeah.
Like you develop that emotional language. And then, of course, developing the language of negotiation. You know?
Sure.
Hey, I would like you to. Hey, are you able to? You know? And then developing the language of inquiry. Is everything okay? Have I got this correctly?
Sure.
Because the danger and the temptation, and actually what we all used to, we communicate from conclusions.
Yeah. A lot of assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah, assumptions.
Sure.
The conclusions we've already made about a matter. Instead of inquiring, we are doing what they do. What they say in law is leading. Objection, Your Honor. Leading the witness.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, and instead of asking a question of clarity, you are actually coercing the person to agree with what you've already concluded.
You have a framework.
It's a framework. Yeah. It's a pretext, they call it, where you already are setting up for the answer that we want because we want a certain outcome to be already true. And here's the danger with that. You already are emotionally committed.
Yeah.
To the outcome that you want to have happen. You are committed emotionally. You are committed psychologically. You're committed mentally. And in fact, your entire physical body is one with that. And so when you find that what you thought was true is untrue, are you ready to agree? No, you're not. You're going to still be fighting to keep your points.
It's what you were saying earlier on. We come in with narratives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your narrative, most of the time, determines your context. And then from that context, that's where you're going to derive your meaning.
Yeah.
And then from the meaning, then that's how you're going to interpret the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so when you find that actually part of my narrative was incorrect in terms of understanding how things are right now, are you ready then to come to a different meaning? Yeah. It takes a long time for you to be emotionally unhinged from those emotional commitments that are based on your conclusions that already exist. And that's why that's why this is what happens when you realize that you've been caught. Mara.
Yeah.
You go into that whataboutism. Yeah. What about?
Yeah.
And you're still grasping for straws, trying to still figure out whether your point is still valid. You're like, dude, there's evidence you are wrong.
Yeah. But I did all of these other things right.
It's like, but no, man, look, listen, I'm emotionally committed here. How do I get out of that? How do I unhinge myself? Because I was so right I was going to win this one
Sure.
and I was going to catch them red-handed.
Yeah, sure.
Except you are left in the cold. Like, can you pull out?
Yeah.
Can you sit back and say, oh, you know what, baby? I got it wrong.
I was wrong, yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, I got it all wrong. Like I was so sure that I was gonna nail you.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I say that to my wife, and it kind of breaks. It of course it does make it a little bit humorous.
Yeah.
And sometimes though, you have to be just own up and say, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah. I messed up, man.
Just give me some time. I'm not ready to say sorry yet.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I'm not ready to say sorry yet.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Like, I'm not ready to say sorry yet. Let me just go at least my humble pie. Let me finish it. Let me process it and come back and
I admit that I'm wrong.
yeah.
But I just don't
Yeah,
wanna.
but no, I don't have the story yet. It's not there yet. It's not ready to come out yet.
That's liberating, man.
But the thing is that it's important then to say allow them the space to do that.
Yeah.
Because wanting to insist, then they're gonna give you, okay, I'm sorry. Say it like you mean it. You see now. I say sorry now, you 21 still.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think maturity is understanding that human nature is such that when you have committed to being right and you're sure it takes you a while to then unlearn and that wrong and be corrected. And you have to allow it and you just give yourself space to both of you to allow that process to unfold.
Man, that's great, brother. That is great. I feel like we could be here for 10 hours.
Yeah, we could, eh?
Which is awesome. It says a lot about you and less about me.
It says a lot about you as a conversationalist, man. It's a facilitator of conversation.
So you've been married twice.
Yeah.
Before we get there, you from the Free State.
Yes, I am.
Came to Joburg in 1998.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Joburg was this big city, big lights.
Oh yeah.
Big everything. And you intimidated by all of that.
Oh, big time.
But the man that's sitting in front of me today is not that teenager who came here, 26, 25 years ago?
Yeah.
How does that happen? You know, there's a video I saw where you spoke about even the way you speak was survival mechanism at first, and now you're using it to thrive.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that, man. I was very fascinated, and I say that, you know, and the reason why I bring that up is I know a lot of men have a similar story, but we never speak about it. And I've learned now recently, you know, been doing a lot of talking with my wife, and just there's parts of my upbringing that she didn't know about. And it's not that I intentionally hid those. No, yeah. It's just that we didn't get to talk about them, you know, and it's things where I'm like, oh, I actually even forgot that about my life. But the more she saw, you know, every single part of my upbringing kind of gave me freedom to just be like, hey, like this is actually who I am, you know. Yeah. Not that you didn't know who and what you married, but the more I just tell you about, you know, where I come from, how I grew up, you know, things I didn't have, dreams I aspired for, you know, not even achieving some of those dreams, and how they affect the, you know, the little boy in me who was hopeful that at this age I would have achieved ABC. She gets more insight, and I think she's learning to love me in a better way. She's empowered to love me in a better way. Yeah. So I say all of that to say, man, your story, I'm asking you to share that in light of trying to liberate a husband out there who, might be holding on to how they were brought up. Yes. Yeah.
I think it's such an important question.
Sure.
It's a really, really crucial question for becoming. We need to understand how we became.
Sure.
we need to understand how we became.
Sure.
And unpack that.
Yeah.
And the best place for you to unpack that is when you are older. When you have the intellectual competence, the emotional maturity, when you have some degree of independence and freedom and understanding that a little bit of your own power, you need to go back to understanding how you became. Coming from the Free State, coming from the small town, remembering those Josie boys, we call them Spume Josie.
Yeah.
School holidays, they come, they take your girl.
Yeah.
Like if your girl likes the Josie boy
No,
for
you're
the school
done.
holidays, you're done, bro.
You're done, yeah.
You're gonna have to just wait up until when they're gone, then they're gonna come back to you.
Yeah.
And so when I came to Joburg from the Free State and having the background that I have of poverty and not also being the most affluent person in the already small town. So you come here, everything's massive. The Joburg boys, they've got the labels, they know Josie, they don't get lost looking for a taxi. Simple things like that. Like you get into a wrong taxi, like, where the hell am I now? And then you can't even speak isiZulu because thinking, I'm Jabu Zwane, by the way, who can't speak isiZulu very well.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, Ngzobuza manje is iguphi taxi eyaka.
But ukhuluma nobani? Khuluma
Little things like that where you really, and also your misconception about the crime. And how Josie people's crime is so bad. It's so much worse than ours.
Than anyone else in the world.
Like anyone else. You see these guys, like these guys can just stab you for no reason. So you have all of these things in the back of your mind. And then of course, I get to Joburg and I'm working at this ice cream factory.
Sure.
I'm living in an abandoned building, by the way.
Oh, hey, man.
I'm telling you right now, I'm living at this. I went and actually took some photos the other day. I'll show you afterwards.
Sure.
I'll send them to you. Maybe you can play them as part of the podcast.
Yeah. Sure.
I went to that building out on Marlborough there. That was abandoned. Sure. I would sneak in there because if they found out I was staying there, they kicked me out because the same company I was working for.
Wow, man.
As a cleaner, mopping floors in an ice cream factory. But the joy and the hope of possibility. Was such that I didn't even care. Like, of course, I was concerned about being mugged in the abandoned building. And I remember, but I don't have anything. So
what are they gonna take?
And I chuckled by myself looking at broken windows. Like, if I had to find a way to entertain yourself, what's wrong with you? You can't come and rob you. You got nothing, yo. You got an old mattress there and a bucket that you're sleeping. You're washing in. Come on.
Sure.
Anyway. But that mindset became such a problem for me when I started to succeed in Joburg. When I started to really do well, unhinged from those fears, just driving only on excitement.
Sure.
And then you become highly competent, and you literally do what the Joburg guys won't do.
Yeah.
Because you're coming from you are a small-time boy.
Yeah.
You're already at the low anyway.
Sure.
So if there's anything extra to be done, it's fine. For me, it's nothing. I'm getting paid at the end of the month. I don't have any family to go to, so you do more work than everybody else.
Sure.
And of course, promotion starts coming, and then you're moving faster. And then you get to that place, and you're realizing, wow, I'm in the room with these guys.
Yeah. I'm finally a Josie boy.
Yeah, I'm a Josie, but do I know how to be a Josie boy? I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know how to be a Josie boy. Sure. I picked up the accent from New York Undercover.
Malik Yoba. Come on now.
Eddie. Yeah.
Come on now.
You know how it is?
Yeah.
I picked that thing from watching, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, I picked it up. I picked up the accent from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do I know, though, how to stay there?
Yeah.
Do I know how to be that person that is competent, that is viewed the way that I was being viewed, as respectable, as knowledgeable, as someone important, when all of your life you were dismissed in every single part of your existence growing up, whether it be in the Free State, tiny place, whether it be, during apartheid and you're black, and in the Free State, apartheid was a different experience altogether. It's like really different.
Sure.
And then the poverty that came along with that and all of the trauma that I experienced growing up. Do I know how to be in a safe space? Number one, do I know how to be someone of importance and significance in important places? Do I know how to be an important person? Struggle.
Yeah.
struggle. And then I'll start jumping from one company to the next. Every time I get to the top, I move to the next. There's almost that fear that, you know what, they're going to catch me. They're going to find out that, you know what, I'm not.
I'm an imposter, yeah.
An imposter. And for a long time, I wasn't even talking about my history. And I wasn't talking about where I come from.
Yeah.
I was just mesmerize the people with my twang.
Look at how my tongue rolls.
You know what I'm saying? And then growing up, being an observer and being a fast learner and being able to get into environment, quickly assess the environment and be able to know exactly who needs what where. Because that's what I needed to do when I was surviving. And then, of course, then it helps me to create quick connections with people from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And because I don't necessarily, I have my own disconnection and disassociation even with my being.
Come on, bro.
You know, because it was dismissed growing up.
Yeah, you don't even know who you are. Yeah.
So I'm disassociated with who I am. So you're operating in your competencies.
Yeah. Performance.
In a survival, you're performing and you are shooting the lights out. And everybody thinking, this guy knows what he's doing. Meanwhile, they don't actually realize that, you know what? It's survival tactics. But now what happens when those are being regarded as something important? Do I know how to be important? Worst part, let's bring it home. My second marriage, I get married to my wife from high school that I grew up with.
Sure.
She's the one that I liked, but I didn't have I had the kwababa.
Yeah.
I didn't have this bindi.
Divine.
I didn't have the liver.
Yes.
To approach.
Yes. Your dad didn't have a butcher.
My dad didn't have a butcher.
You
I was not his boy. Boss.
No spindies to give away.
No spindies. And I say this, and I think this will be very good for this part for the podcast here, is that my plan was to come to Josie.
Sure.
All right. Come and be the Josie boy. Go back home in my car. Right.
Yeah.
And I'll be driving on the streets and I'll be playing Tevin Campbell. Can we talk for a minute?
Hey! Come on.
I'll be blasting that thing with the windows rolled down and I'll be seeing her walking down the street and I'll be like, doop, doop.
Yeah.
Turn around and I'll be like, hey, it's me. Yo. Get in the car. We go drive into the sunset, bro. That was my plan, man.
Oh, Lord, help us. Sheesh.
And then I go back, and then some Josie boy has already moved in. Yeah. With a Chico.
He's
with
already
black
playing.
Chico. Oh, boy, city boy. God.
He's playing Tevin Campbell before you.
I'm like, I have no chance here.
Yeah.
Nigga is Josie boy. Yes. Nigga this. Forget about me. Yeah. So I go back home, and I never just talk to her again.
Yeah.
I literally disappeared.
Sheesh.
Literally disappeared. Got married the first time, and then my first wife passed away. And then I find out a couple of months later after she passed on, hey, my friend is, we connect. And I find out, I start talking to her that she's not married anymore. Like, hey? Now I'm Jabu Zwane.
Yeah. Don't play me.
Don't play me, yo. Bruh. Nigga makes a move, yo.
Are you killing me?
Take it to Premier PR to come on. I smell good, man. He went buy a brand new pair of jeans.
She's gonna know me.
She don't know what coming her way,
She's
bro.
gonna know me. I'm gonna lick you over in the flesh.
Boss. And I got the evidence. I got the stamp passport with a US visa, bro.
Yeah, come on now. 10-year visa.
Yeah, bro.
I like you killing me. Sheesh, man.
Hey, bro. And then we get married.
Yeah.
Ah, boy.
Yeah.
The triggers.
Sure.
Boss.
Sure.
Everything that I thought that I had overcome came back flooding.
Because now when you in, she doesn't care about Malikio, but you're my husband.
No, but the thing is that, but it's about my history with her. It's about that when I was growing up and we were growing up together, she was part of that high echelon that I wasn't part of.
Oh, smack.
Do I know? Do I think I'm good enough?
Oh, smack.
Yeah, of course. I mean, all of that. But the things that, foundationally speaking, my framework, I was triggered.
Yeah.
I would literally be thinking, I wonder if she's, let me not call her today and see if she's going to call me.
And you're only acting from
Like it's like, yeah, like
from
I
that
want to
little
see. I want to
boy.
see that. Yeah, like, she really loved me. Like she, she'd call me, and I get disappointed.
Yeah.
I was so ready to be right.
Because you have your own narrative.
Because I got my own narrative, And I was in this situation where it's almost like making it work so hard to prove that she loves me.
Sure.
Instead of just for me receiving
Yeah.
that love that she was giving to me
Yeah.
and seeing it for what it was.
Yeah.
And I got exhausted. Like, okay, hold on. What are you doing, dude? Like, what's wrong with you?
Did she pick
What
it
are you, a
up?
kid? I don't think she did.
Okay.
I don't think she did. It was something that I was going through myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Maybe she did and she pretended she didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She loved you that much.
She's smart enough. Probably she picked like, what's wrong with this one? Wow.
Relax, bro.
You know what I mean? Just chill right now.
Sure.
But I was triggered. So badly. And the thing is that it became so difficult. I think even for her, there was a bit of a challenge on how do I make sense of this guy? Not internationally traveled. There are all these people in my life that, there's everything from white to American to many different countries to pastors to business people. Actually, there's a whole world that looks so different. And it's not a typical world of an average South African.
Yeah. From a small town in Free State.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how? I could see that some of those questions were there, even for her. Like, how do I make sense of who this guy is?
And she knows where you're from.
She knows exactly where I'm from. She knows my father. She knows my mother. She knows the house. She knows that I was wearing her brother's shirts. She knows that she knows that I used to eat at her house. I would go visit, and then at some point, I never left.
Yeah.
I stayed with them. Yeah. So all of those factors. The question was do I know? Do you know how to take care of the love that you've been wanting all your life?
Wow, man.
Are you ready for it? Are you ready for that?
Oh.
Are you ready to do because it's going to be the most transformationally challenging endeavor of your life.
For your life. Yeah.
It's going to be it's going to challenge you to transform. It's going to challenge you to grow. It's going to challenge you to become so much more of who you are and so much of who you've never been. Are you willing to take that path? This was for me the most challenging endeavor.
Sure.
And it took counseling. It took a lot of conversations with my accountability structure of men.
Yeah.
And having long conversations.
Sure.
And accountability structure is people that hold you to account for what you want to do, not what you're feeling.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Now I talk to your feelings and say, listen, when I spoke to my pastor, he'll say to me, so, okay, hold on a second. Let's get this straight. The objective here is to have a healthy marriage, yes? Spiritual marriage, yes. Now, if you want a spiritual marriage, this is what you need to do. Not what she needs to do. This is what you need to do.
Sure.
Do you have the humility to allow those men to talk to you and to have that access?
Come on.
Have access to influence you to take some decisions that even sometimes you're not ready.
Yeah.
But because of they know better than you, you borrow from their wisdom.
Yeah.
And you go with their confidence.
Yeah.
Even as you're trying to figure certain things out.
Sure.
And a lot of that happened. It were long conversations, 3-hour conversations.
Yeah.
When I traveled to the US in 2020, I got stuck during COVID-19. And thankfully, I could have access to my pastor then. We had long conversations about these struggles that I had.
Sure.
Sure. And when you have an accountability structure, you have to be transparent.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to be hypocritical.
Yeah.
And try to paint yourself as good. If you want a marriage to work, especially as a man, because you are the custodian of accountability, you better be accountable.
Accountable, man, yeah.
And part of accountability is transparency about your own struggles, not trying to justify your dysfunctional ways, but to say, listen, I'm struggling. I feel like smacking her. What do I do with that? Right? Not me, because that's not. But I'm just saying, like, if you're struggling having those things, I don't know how to handle it when she over speaks me, because I don't have the vocabulary reach that she has, and I find myself just withdrawing. What do I do with that?
Sure.
And those men they better be experienced.
Yeah.
And they better have some success in the marriage, and
marriage.
in whatever it is that you are trying to achieve in. And the success, it better be healthy success. It can't just be we've been together married for 30 years, but you've seen them swear at their wives. You've seen them lie to them. You've seen them cheat on them. That's not somebody that can hold you accountable.
Come on.
That is somebody that is going to basically, incubate.
Coddle you.
You know what I mean? They're going to coddle you.
Yeah.
And like that's not a person for accountability.
Yep.
That person that you actually don't feel like telling them the wrong things that you have done, that's the one.
The best line I've ever heard about for accountability is after we meet for those 3-hour sessions, at the end, the person who's keeping you accountable looks at you dead in the eyes and says, in the 3 hours we've been chatting, did you lie to me? Yeah. Because one, that gives you an opportunity to actually clarify any lies you might have given, but it also speaks to the level of transparency.
Exactly.
Because they can only be as helpful as you are honest.
As you're honest.
Yeah. So if I'm 50% honest, that's as far as their help can get.
Exactly.
If I'm 100% honest, then their help can truthfully be at 100%, man. Yeah. Sorry, I disturbed you.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because that's very true.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. And then to piggyback on that is that to hold yourself accountable and say, I don't want to lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's a point where you're going to say to yourself, I honestly don't, I want to live as accurate an account of life as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is that I don't want to lie to myself. I don't want to say I've done anything that I haven't done. I don't want to say that I don't feel how I don't feel. I don't want to say to the person I've done what they said I should do when I know I haven't done. Like I want to be as accurately transparent as I possibly can. Because with people like that, then you can leverage the wealth of their wisdom when you're having those conversations.
Sure.
If you are endeavoring so much to give a good account of what you've done, then you're not ready for transformation.
Sure. Yeah.
If everything you're speaking about is what they've done. Look, if somebody's mistreating you, accountability says you are allowing them.
There's a level at which you agree with.
There's a level of which that you agree and you are allowing that. Because naturally, most people, if they mistreat you and you say to them, no, I don't want that, and they do it again, you say, no, I don't want that, and do it again, you say, you know what, I'm taking action, they stop. But if you're telling me that they've been doing this for years, it means that there is some kind of level of comfort that you yourself even have developed. Even with that, there's some kind of bond that you've developed, even with that mistreatment, right? They call it trauma bonding, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And then accountability is saying, I don't communicate as well as I should. As a result, my wife has to assume a lot of decisions because I don't give them enough information. I don't give them enough information. That's why they end up then imagining things in their heads. Right? If there's a disconnection between my behavior and the words that I'm saying, I'm creating a vulnerability on their minds just to try and figure certain things out. That's what accountability is. Accountability is, okay, fine. Yes, I am not a talkative person. And that's my personality. And the question is but how is that playing out in terms of the experience in your relationship?
Sure.
How does that play out? Especially if you know that your person does require a little bit of few words. Like how are they experiencing your relationship? Is that what you want?
Sure.
Is that how you want your love to be experienced? Is that a true representation of your heart? Or are your actions misrepresenting your intention and your heart? And do you care enough to challenge yourself to say, okay, I know I'm not a communicator, but at least I need to learn a few words in the dictionary.
Yeah. Just to articulate myself better.
A little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Sure. Oh, man.
It's never whether something is right or wrong, but it's like we have to always judge it against purpose, outcome, and impact. Purpose, outcome, impact. That between the purpose and that outcome, I have to work on that. If I get the purpose, what is the impact? Who's losing? Are the kids healthy? Are you healthy? Is she healthy? How are we experiencing this perfect image that we're projecting on social media?
Yeah.
What is actually happening in the home? Right?
Sure. Is it real?
Is it real?
Yeah. Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that level of transparency for me with men, I say, men, it's important for us to learn to be transparent. I don't necessarily see it being very successful when we are using the word vulnerable with men.
Sure.
Because vulnerability, we understand it logically from war.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Sure.
I'm vulnerable. I'm going to get taken down.
Yeah. Sure.
But transparency is that say things as they are.
Sure.
Like, I'm frustrated by
that's fair.
this, that, and that. This is what I've gone through as a kid. As I remember saying this to my wife, like, listen, let me tell you my triggers. One of my worst triggers is being ignored.
Wow.
Because I grew up in an environment where I was ignored all the time. I've done a lot of work to heal from not being seen.
Sure.
I'm learning what it means to be seen. Of anybody in the world that can take me back to that space, nobody has more power than you.
Not my wife, man. Yeah.
Nobody has more power to make me unseen more than you.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm not saying nurse me, I'm a little kid. I'm saying
be aware of the power you have.
Be aware of the power that you have.
Sure.
I'm a very busy man. Apparently, I'm doing great things in the world. But all of that means nothing. All of the hand clap means nothing unless if I come home and then you are jumping on me and you are kissing my mampandlan and say, you showed them.
Well. Yes.
You did that.
Yes.
It's you.
Yes.
If you don't say that,
yeah,
it's very difficult for me to put it in context.
Come on, bro. Yeah.
There's an important context of validation that's missing.
Yeah. You're on a podcast arguing that just the affirmation, validation that men need to get from partners, husbands particularly get from their wives, and how important that is. I mean, we spoke about this gentleman earlier now, but his name is escaping me now. But he was pushing back, that if I can, do great things alone, why do I suddenly need my wife to validate me? If this is what I'm gonna do anyway, I'm gonna go out there, speak, build businesses, do great things. Why do I need my wife now to validate me? There might be a lot of other guys who think the same way. Why do you think it's important that you want your wife to kiss your mpandlana when you come back home? What does that do to you? And what does that bring out of you? Yeah.
Richness of experience. It makes that experience more rich. I can do all those things and I don't need for her to necessarily validate me. And I'll go and I'll do them. The danger with that is that human beings respond to praise.
Come on.
And compliment.
Come on.
And we naturally gravitate to anybody that seems to think that we are amazing.
It's plain and simple.
If more women out there in the world think I'm amazing and my wife does not seem to think I am, it's a vulnerability in our marriage. It's a vulnerability in our marriage. You may say you don't need it.
Yeah.
But you don't know how much you like it until you get it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you start liking it from other people, getting from you're gonna start making comparison.
That's when you start having female best friends. Yeah.
That's the thing that's why he starts realizing that she's all talking to you all about transactions and about duties and about criticism. And then this thing is missing that you're constantly getting elsewhere. It's missing.
Yeah.
It's a vulnerability.
Yeah. Sure.
That gets quickly sorted out with, you know what, baby? You're amazing.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Like that, it's few words that don't necessarily change the fact that I'm doing what I'm doing. But guess what, man? I leave that house with my chest
man.
up there.
I would kill bears.
And I'm ready to slay, yo.
Yeah.
I'm ready to slay.
Yeah.
Simple words.
Sure.
So it's not the fact that I need it.
Sure.
But the thing is that I don't ever want to not need it.
Yeah. Sure.
Because that's a very important part of who I am as a man. As far as my contribution, my significance in the world. And to know that your words, your involvement as my wife are not part of that, it's a vulnerability for our marriage.
Yeah. You can still achieve stuff, but it changes the quality of the success.
It changes the experience, the richness of the experience.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Because, we tackling this life together.
Yeah.
You see, the people out there in the world appreciate my performance,
Mm.
but my struggle. You know what it means that I'm there.
Yeah.
The meaning with you, it's different.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have walked the path together. And for me as a man to come home and say, you know what, love? Let's go get that car.
Yeah. This is our win.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's go do it. Let's go get that house. It means something.
Yeah.
This is different from some other person that was never part of that.
Yeah.
That say maybe I meet much later in life.
Yeah.
And then they find me the way that I already am. Whew.
Yeah. Sure.
There's almost, for me, I think personally, I would be like, ow. Like, honestly, really? No. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so that's why, for me, it's like to secure your men's assurance. Like, it's important for me to know that you think I'm amazing.
Sure.
And it's in context.
Sure.
Because whatever it is, whether we like it or not, whatever it is that we are not getting at home, most of us are going to go look for it elsewhere.
Yeah.
From when we were small, this is what was happening. Yeah, the reason why you had friends instead of being friends with your siblings.
Yeah.
It's because that sibling relationship didn't have that element of fun.
Yeah. They knew all your flaws.
Yeah.
You fought. Yeah. But
and
your
there
friends.
was and there was also they know which this one, they know all that there is to know about you.
Yeah, you pee the bed. We know
you pee the bed. We know that. You know what I'm saying? But your friends don't know that.
They don't know that. Yeah.
So whatever it is that you can't be able to get in the home, you're gonna go look for it outside.
Sure.
Similarly, when it's a single parent, if there's no father, then you go look for it outside.
Sure.
Whether it's gangsterism for boys or whether it's girls for, it doesn't matter. We're gonna go look for it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, if it's the mother, we're gonna go look for it elsewhere, right? So similarly speaking, that doesn't change. It doesn't change once you get married. Let me close this thought with this. Marriage is the only relationship where every aspect of your relationships are going to be experienced.
Yes.
Every single one of them.
Yes.
Sometimes you're a father, you're a brother, you're a friend, you're a colleague, you're a business partner, you're a companion, all of that. You become all of that. And of course, there's an element of marriage that every other relationship will never have.
Doesn't have, yeah.
And it's the only relationship that will have that. But every other relationship will never have.
Yeah.
Intimacy. Yeah. In that way. Like, you're not going to have that with anybody else.
Anyone else, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So it is the most holistic relationship experience you'll ever have. And that is why it's possible for people to be married and just be friends with each other and be their own family.
Yes.
And not need anybody
Anyone
else.
Yeah. Sure.
Because it is the only place where you can do that.
Sure.
Whether that's healthy or not, it's a whole nother argument.
Podcast, yes.
It's another, but it's the one place.
Yeah.
And so I think to be if you want to be really have a holistic marriage and have a rich experience, endeavor to be as much of that as you can.
That's a good one.
And don't withhold from it on some ideology that it makes you whatever that you fear you don't want to be. If you're gonna serve your wife, serve your wife.
Yeah. Sure.
Deal with this whole idea that serving your wife makes you a simp.
A simp.
It's your marriage.
Yeah.
It's your rules.
Yeah.
It's your relationship.
Sure.
If you are able to cook for her, and you enjoy it, because I enjoy cooking, because I grew up having to cook for myself.
That's off, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I got to enjoy it. Now I still do, even as a pastor. They knew at church that if you're talking about bringing food and stuff, that more likely the pastor is going to bring the biggest tray of meat.
Yeah.
And should I dare say probably the tastiest.
Yeah. Come on.
It was bad, but it was so bad that the mamas in the church didn't want to cook for me.
Wow. Because you cook better.
They didn't want to cook for me. Like it was like that thing where they didn't want to make any food for me.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy that. Why now, on some ideology, do I want to stop doing that in the home?
Sure.
Because my wife is supposed to do it for me. My wife is supposed to do nothing that doesn't help us.
Sure. Come on.
Just for the sake of doing it because it's some kind of a law.
Yeah.
Culture is supposed to help us to have an enriched life.
Yes.
Any traditions.
Yes.
The moment they start to take from the richness of the experience, we have the right to renegotiate.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to revisit.
Yeah. Because that's, I would say, culture is, it's an invisible agreement between us and our environment.
Yeah, it is.
If our environment changes, it's going to affect how we treat that environment. If we change, we're going to impact the environment in a specific way. And that's when culture emerges, And so culture can change. So you used to live in the Free State. There was a way of doing things there. You become a Chosi boy. There's a way of doing things here. So you'll find different cultures because of those two different places. And those people are going to be different people.
Exactly.
And I think that applies obviously in our home as well. That the kind of culture we create there can change. We when we got married, we lived in a cottage smaller than this table. Right? It was good for fighting. Yeah. Because you can't escape. Where you gonna go? Yeah. Exactly. So we have to solve stuff immediately. And the culture was different because of how small that house was.
Yeah.
And as we moved places, the culture changes because now there's more room in the house. There's objects in the house that impact the culture of our marriage, So culture is what you make it. Traditions are what you make it. They're supposed to serve you guys.
Yeah, it's supposed to serve you.
And not the other way around, No. So yeah, that's great, man. Man, you've really blessed us with a lot. And there's still more in my head. And here's where I wanna end, because I still haven't asked you about the story of the balloon. Lord. And maybe you can throw it in there, but you've mentioned this several times, and I'd probably be doing it disservice if I didn't ask you. So your first wife passes on. How do you deal with that? How do you cope with that? And how do you transition into your second marriage? If you could walk us through that, and then just a highlight. You've been married now for 6 years this year.
Yeah, 6 years, yeah.
What's been a highlight, of that? So how did you cope with the loss of your first wife, transition? What's a highlight? And in between that, throw the bologna in there.
Let me just wrap up the bologna story. The bologna story basically is that, look, like I said, I grew up very poor, right?
Sure.
And not a cheese boy. Back in the Free State, I'm sure I've been at many of the townships.
Yeah.
Kids that had a bit of money, whether it be teachers' children and tuck shop owners' children, they had cheese and bologna.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so bologna was like a rare, encounter for a kid who grew up like the way that I did. From pap and water, pap and salt, pap and dichadika, those dry fats, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was me. And so when I started working, the couple of things I needed to get out of my system.
Yeah.
And one of them is a bologna. And I go buy this loaf of bologna and I'm thinking I'm going to take it down by myself. Halfway through, I'm like, oh, this is a mistake.
How old are you?
I'm about 19 at the time.
Okay, that makes sense.
19. I'm like halfway. This is a bad idea.
Youthful, what's this? Ignorance.
Ignorance
makes you think that my body is capable of chowing
the
whole
entire
loaf
thing.
of bologna. Yeah,
boss.
Sure.
Yeah, and
well done, man.
Yeah. So my body's like, dude, whatever you're doing, I'm not in agreement. But anyway, let me show you how much of in disagreement I am with it.
You chanted the whole thing.
Bruh. There was a bologna, there was a full chicken. You know, Montana gross rotisserie. Remember, it was
Yes,
a Montana
yes, I
rotisserie. I
remember.
came across
Yes.
Montana rotisserie and I leveled that chicken with bones.
Yo.
And I did 12 eggs.
Yeah.
Like
One time.
everything, man. That
Yeah.
like I was denied
Sure.
the opportunity to have as a
Sheesh,
kid.
man.
I went after it.
Yeah.
I got it out of my system.
Yeah. Lord. You know, financial advisors normally say if you come across a lot of money, inheritance, lottery, if it just suddenly happens,
Mm.
the best thing that you can do for yourself so that you don't squander that money is, you know, get a portion of it and just say, man, like all the things
That I wish to
that
have.
I wish to
Go
have.
do them.
Let's put all that aside. You know,
Mm.
there's this. I call myself the king of trash TV,
Mm.
and part of what constitutes my catalog of trash TV is a show called I Blew It. That show is terrible, you know, but I think all parts of my life are so hectic. I find enjoyment in that.
I love that show.
Yeah, those people never put aside. They blow everything, you know. But the advice is, you know, let's say you get 10 million out of nowhere, you know, take a million maybe,
Mm.
put the 9 away, and just say, man, I'm gonna go destroy this thing, just so that I could get it out of my
Just
system.
go blow it. Get it out of the system.
So that I don't blow the rest.
Exactly.
So let me buy the paluni, chow it. Let me buy the 12 eggs. You know, let me buy the full chicken, chow the thing, and then be like, yo, man, we done here.
Exactly.
We done. It's out of our system, right?
Mm.
So your story just reminds me of that advice, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's important. I mean, I even say that sometimes. I say to us, you know, especially black men and black
Yeah.
women,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, get rid of, you know what, get that expensive car out of your system.
Sure.
Get it out
Sure.
early.
Sure.
Take the lessons from that.
Sure.
And then make sure that your next purchase you can afford.
Yeah.
But get it out of your system and get it out of your system early.
Sure.
If that's part of your mindset.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying earlier on, I think what helped me to really heal from my first marriage is that I learned, I think probably on my 6th or 7th year, to put my guard down. You know, the first couple of years of my first marriage, I was very defensive still.
Sure.
Part of actually having an absent mother is that you have that fear of abandonment. So I wasn't fully committed because there was supposed psychologically in the back of my mind a fear that she's gonna go, and she was just there taking care of me, loving and being all of that. But half the time I was looking for reasons to go.
Wow.
You know, looking for all of those reasons.
Yeah.
And then I remember as a point like asking myself like, what are you afraid of, dude? Like, what's wrong with you? She's here, loving you, taking care of you. When are you going to bring your end of the bargain? From that moment going forward, a lot of things changed. I realized how funny she was. Like, I didn't realize that she was hilarious. Hilarious.
Sure.
You know, like hilarious. And we can have conversations. And because of those conversations we could have, there was a lot of expression on her part for whatever reason of how she was experiencing me as a husband. That helped me a lot. Specifically, what helped me a lot as a Christian was the verse Romans 13:8, which is, owe nothing to no man but to love them, because love is the fulfillment of the law. And then remembering how she would remind me that to her, that law is fulfilled. There was a point where I felt like, okay, maybe that is what was needed. And then she got the fulfillment of her law. I did my duty as a husband. And it is okay for me to mourn and to do all of that, but it's okay for me to be open to love again.
Sure.
You know? But moving from that, getting remarried, there were some conditions I put for myself.
Okay.
One of the conditions was that I don't want anybody that's going to be in the shadow of my first wife.
Sure.
Being a pastor.
That's good.
I didn't want anybody that knows anything much about her that they would be intimidated by the person that she was. Because you know there's a whole thing where somebody passes away, they get immortalized and they reach that sainthood.
Shrine. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I didn't want anybody to have to go through that. And I didn't want to have to go struggle convincing that person. that they are as good.
I'll crush them, man.
I didn't have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there was the condition. The condition was that also at the same time, I want somebody who understands and appreciates my history. And I have to do a lot of explaining now because I'm too old and I don't have time for that.
Sure.
And at the very same time, also, I wanted somebody who can challenge me. I didn't want a yes sir woman. And knowing where I was back then, I realized how easy it is for me as a man of influence to have a woman that's going to see me as somebody they need to just say yes to.
Sure.
I wanted somebody who's my intellectual equal, spiritual equal, emotionally challenging. They can be their own person, and we can journey together and enjoy life together because that's what I knew and that's what I preferred. And as things stood, nobody met that.
Sure.
Nobody met that until.
How long was the gap?
It was about a couple of 6-7 months,
Okay.
and then we got married 2.5 years later.
Ah, okay.
So between that, so between then it was about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then learning that about my current wife, that she is available. She knows my history, and this one is not afraid of me. She will tell me exactly where to get off, and no relation and no history at all with my first wife.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it was the three conditions that I had.
Wow.
And it made perfect sense.
Wow.
And the fact that we had similar values, similar upbringing was perfect. And of course, she was a Christian. The biggest highlight has been, I think, for me, just agreeing and realizing that this is something that we have to do together. We can't leverage any ideas of our history because we're not those kids. We're not the kids in high school.
Sure.
She has become who she's become. I've become who I've become. She needed to know who I am. I needed to know who she is. But my second marriage has been the most challenging experience for my own personal transformation.
Sure.
It has, honestly, the more confident person that I am today, the more insistent person that I am today, the more, determined person that I am today is due to this woman that I got married to now.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
She's a tough cookie.
Yeah.
And she's challenging. And she stands her ground, which then challenged me as a man to stand my ground.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah.
It's great, man. It's great. Brother, thanks so much for this. Truly appreciate you. Appreciate just all the insights you've given us, all the gems you've given us. I'm truly inspired as a man, as a husband, as a businessman, sitting across you now has just really unlocked parts of me. So as we're chatting, there's a secondary conversation I'm having with myself that I want to have with you off camera.
Yes, sure, absolutely.
And I'm just like, man, this has been incredible. And I just know and see why a lot of people were screaming to have you on the podcast, So yeah, if I hoped for the 100%, you gave us 1,000. So
thank you,
man. Yeah, truly appreciate that.
No, thank you so much. I mean, thanks for the platform. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah.
And for entrusting me, with this gift that God has given to you, this responsibility, and to be part of it in whatever form, to whatever measure. And definitely be praying for you. Definitely be praying for the people that are listening.
Thanks, man.
We absolutely have a great need in our community for these types of conversations, and to be led by us.
Sure.
Right, and to be led by us without a referee or a third party facilitating, but us talking about our own experiences in the way that only we can be able to understand and articulate them.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all power.
Thanks, man.
All power to that husband.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. And thank you to your wife. Please send our greetings, our love, and appreciation for her, because part of what makes your story relevant to us, your husband, because of her.
Yeah.
First and foremost, because of God, but He's given her to you so that you can express this gift of being a husband. So thank her. We thank her that she even challenges you, as you said.
You know, she.
And part of that challenge is being able to come sit here and talk so intimately with us about your guys' life. So
no, thank you so much. I really appreciate
thanks,
that.
man.
Yeah, she's a godly woman.
Yeah.
Who also has a great desire for successful marriages in our community. So, you know.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
I did inform her that I'll be here and she was happy. So
cool.
I don't know if she's going to watch it because she has a tendency of not watching my stuff. Watch everybody else's things and not watch mine. And I complain about it. She's like, okay, come on, man. It's like, dude, I live with you.
Yes.
All right.
What are you going to say? That
if you haven't said it to me, it's your fault.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hear about you on some public platform.
Yes.
If you think I need to hear it, you tell it to me because I'm married to you.
Yeah. Please watch it for the views then. We're asking you to watch it for the views. No, thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, bro.
It's good. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been incredible. We'd really love for you to comment, leave your thoughts about anything that we shared. There's obviously a lot of conversations that we probably need to double click on and unpack even more, which means Mr. Zwane is going to come back. He's definitely going to come back. We're going to make sure of that. So please don't forget to leave your comment. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, to hit the notification bell so that you're updated on every single episode we drop every Wednesday, 11:30, right here on the Dream Space. With me, that has been Podcast Black Newborn. We'll see you on the flip side, right? Peace.
Awesome.
This principle works so well that when I come in with accountability and responsibility and take responsibility for my contribution and all of that stuff, even without her knowing or without her voluntarily doing it, she will automatically start reflecting on herself. And 20 times, if out of 21 times, she will say to me, no, you're not the only one that's wrong. I'm also wrong because I did. Now, the whole conversation steers out of a battle,
bro. Yeah.
and goes into resolving.
Hey, I'm wondering if you've heard about our new show that we dropped here on the Dream Space called The Dopest Variety Show. If you haven't, well, check out what came out this past Monday. If this was a struggle song, we wouldn't say, Amanda would say, Amanga.
That's hilarious.
Y'all are lying.
Oh, we so predictable. I got a couple quotes you should get to know. Like, let go to protect the flow and real talk.
This is very weird. Whose granny is that? Can she actually DJ? She's on those decks like she knows black coffee. But then that means we all have to agree, and that's utopia, and we know that doesn't exist. Not everyone's going to agree on what the thing is.
But we all know what's right and wrong, Lily.
Do we?